This is Python's Paradise. This is your host, Greg Gilbert, aka the Python Hyena, straight out of Fredericton, New Brunswick, Canada. Folks, here we are on February the 22nd, 2025. And you know what, folks? This is the best way to start the day. You see, I just got done work, and I come back here and I'm like, you know what? How do you start your day after work? I know how you start your day. You talk to one of the most awesome entertainers you could think of. And who was it for me? Well, it's the guy that interviewed me on my 50th birthday. It's the guy that's joined me on several tributes on here to various performers that he's known personally. And he's on here today because even though he's hit the Five Timers Club on the tributes, this is his fifth time. This is his second time in a Five Timers Club where we're just talking about him. So he's in both categories, folks.
Tell
Folks,
him
I
who I
give,
am.
yes. And he looks awesome with glittery purple. I love it, folks. I give you the absolutely awesome Geoffrey Mark. How do you do, Geoffrey?
Good evening, Stud Muffin.
Yeah. Skill, did you hear what he called you? My jungle cat's back there walking on the register. Skittles, that's not a high wire act. I'm sorry. I don't know what he's doing.
I belong to another kind of five timers club too. As we're recording this, we just had the Saturday Night Live 50th anniversary special a few days ago. I was in the audience for Saturday Night Live five times in its first season. In
Oh,
fact,
wow.
in fact, I submitted material to Saturday Night Live, and a little bit of what I wrote ended up on the show. So I have a connection there.
You want to talk about what made it on the show? Are you able to?
I did a joke in my act. Those of you may remember, if you're old enough or you've studied a little bit of show business history, that one of our great singers, Andy Williams, was married to a French actress named Claudine Longet.
Okay.
And Claudine Longet somehow managed on a skiing trip to shoot and kill another skier. And I did a joke about the second annual Claudine Longet skiing shoot off for ABC. And my joke that I said on stage 3 days later was on Saturday Night Live. So that's one of the times they had somebody coming to see my shows and just taking little jokes I was telling. But I got to sit in the audience with the original cast like five or six times, so it was worth it.
Wow. You know what? Last year, I went and saw the Saturday Night movie. Now, that started in 1975, so I would have been 3 years old the year that started.
Taxi,
Yeah,
3 years old.
yeah, in 1975, I would have been three, but I went and saw Saturday Night, the movie, and
Yeah,
I wish it had have done better than it did. I
not
loved
accurate,
it. Huh?
not accurate at
I
all.
agree, it's not accurate, but I got to admit, it was just really cool. I especially was just engaged when the representation of John Belushi was on there because I think between John Belushi, of course, Eddie Murphy wasn't part of this, but
Oh,
John
not for
Belushi
10
and
years.
Eddie, huh?
Not for many years, no.
Well, John Belushi and Eddie Murphy to me are two of the greatest, maybe the
Oh.
top two for me talents for
No,
that show.
I agree about the talent, but Milton Berle was shown to be an old lech in this thing. He wasn't even in the building that night. Um, the representations of so many things, they changed them just to make a better movie or make it more interesting. Even how the show was first created, I have great respect for Lauren Michaels. Do not get me wrongly. But Lauren didn't just create this show all by himself. There was a man who got very short shrift, meaning Garrett Morris at the very end of the show mentioned his name, and his name is Tom Schiller. And Tom Schiller co-created Saturday Night Live with Lauren. And it was Tom who did so many of the filmed things. We saw those first 5 seasons. They used to call them Schiller Vision, or Schiller's Reel. And somehow in the history of SNL, Tom's name gets lost. And since I was very close friends with his father, Bob Schiller, who was one of the original I Love Lucy writers, it's like, wow, you're not only changing the story, you're leaving out so very much. And that they didn't, in this last Sunday's special, even mention Don Pardo. It's Saturday Night Live. He was the voice of it for like 40 years. I wish the history of this show was handled better because I
Hmm.
was there. I saw what was going on, and it's not how they represented it.
I knew they got some stuff wrong. Like I knew the scuffle between Chase and Belushi didn't happen, but they're trying to play off the Chase Bill Murray thing that would happen later, but Bill wasn't there for the first season. And I know there was a lot of criticism over the Jim Henson stuff. I'm not privy to the background to this, so I'm just kind of going along with it. And half the time when these kind of movies come up, I know they're toying with stuff. So I love that you're on here schooling me on this because
Well,
yeah, well
you mentioned Jim Henson.
hmm
Well, if you watch the show, the Jim Henson Muppets had a set. Okay, he created new Muppet characters that were recurring characters. Now, were the characters hysterically funny? No. Is that the fault of the SNL writing team or of Jim's writing team? But certainly there was a set. He knew what the characters were because he had to have the characters there. It wasn't like Kermit the Frog and Miss Piggy were there and they didn't know what to do. He created all new characters. So there had to have been discussions of what the characters would be, what the set was, because they built a set. So the idea that, they're on the air already and Jim doesn't know what he's doing is just nonsense.
hmm
Now, was Jim Henson frustrated that week with the writers? Maybe so. Bill Murray was nowhere to be found that week. He wasn't on the
Well,
show
B
but
Bill came later.
a year later.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, Chevy left, I think, a month into the second season
hmm
to go west to make movies. And it was funny that they built Chevy up. So, yes, folks, we're doing an hour on Saturday Night Live, it looks like. But
I love this. I love this because I'm learning
Chevy,
from you.
well, you'd sit, the warm up. There's a warm up for this show. And Don Pardo was a wonderful warm up guy. Besides being the announcer, he worked for like 40 minutes before the show started to get the audience's energy up and laughing. And he would do all the shtick he always did. And then, and I remember, and now the man you've all come to see, ladies and gentlemen, Chevy Chase. And Chevy would come out with his shirt off in skin tight jeans and no underwear, come out, flex his muscles, show off his body, turn around and walk out. And then the show would start. That's how they warmed the audience up with Chevy's muscles. They really thought that Chevy was going to be this superstar. And I'm not denigrating his talent. He was wonderful on the show and he made some funny movies,
hmm
but he did not become the superstar they were all predicting. They thought from almost the beginning that they got right, that Chevy was the heir apparent to the Tonight Show. And that obviously did not happen. Johnny Carson wanted no part of him. But the rest of it, I found it very a bad choice, a disrespectful choice, shall we say. They had Jane Curtin there this last Sunday. She said nothing. They
Oh,
had
wow.
Lorraine Newman there, who did a filmed segment. They had Garrett Morris sitting in a chair because he's that old. Chevy said nothing, although he was there. Danny Aykroyd didn't even come. Um, there is mention to Gilda and John passing, but quick mention. It just, I understand NBC wants to keep the current cast in the spotlight. So the sketches they did were current sketches or from just a few years past, but they didn't recreate anything that was older than like 5 or 10 years. Well, there's a 50-year history there. And if they
Mhm.
were going to bother to do this long thing, well, why not include the people who really did start it? Um, that's just how I feel about it. I felt it was disrespectful to the original cast,
Mhm.
to the original director, Dave. That wasn't Dave Powers. Dave Powers was the Carol Burnett show. I'm having a senior moment. The original director, Dave Wilson, the original director, Don Pardo. They mentioned writers, but how can you have Saturday Night Live? You're opening with Michael O'Donoghue, opening with John Belushi, but you don't mention his name. I just felt it was too much of a network trying to promote its current show and not enough of let's really respect the history of this show. Because there's something nobody ever talks about with Saturday Night Live. And this is a story, by the way, I've never told on the air before. So you're getting a first. As I said, Bob Schiller was one of the original I Love Lucy writers, who also went on to write for Carol Burnett and Red Skelton and Flip Wilson and All in the Family and Maud. So Matt had a very long career. Well, he worked on the Phyllis Diller variety show, so one season show. And Lorne Michaels was a young writer on that show. And Bob and Lorne became friends. Bob had a teenage son in the house, maybe 18ish, like just an adult, but just barely. And because he was closer to Lorne's age than Bob, they bonded. Well, they went on a trip out here near where I live in the California desert to create. Uh, he thinks they were doing mushrooms. He's not sure what the drug was, but they were drugging it up. And they came back and they came to his house and they said, guess what? We've created this brand new concept that nobody's ever come up with before. A live 90-minute show on Saturday night with a cast of comedians and rotating hosts and musical guests. And Bob said, congratulations, you just invented your show of shows, which was on NBC starting in 1950 because your show of shows featured Sid Caesar and Imogen Coca and Carl Reiner and Howie Morris and a rotating host and musical guests for 90 minutes on Saturday night. And no one ever makes that connection. It's the same show.
Oh wow, and that was a quite the talents too.
So, and that the writing talent on that is, everyone from Mel Brooks to some of the greatest playwrights we've ever had worked on that show. And Saturday Night Live has had a wonderful, wonderful list of amazing writers coming up with this stuff. So you would think NBC would want to connect those dots and say, look what NBC has brought you. Since the dawn of television, we have been the sketch comedy capital, but nobody ever says it.
I didn't see the 50th anniversary, and I know the stuff I've heard. I know I would have been disappointed if they didn't dive into the history of it and some of those veteran performers. And uh, not that I want to get political or anything. I definitely have heard and seen the clips of the Tom Hanks situation. Um, I'm going to say this. I'm a little disappointed here in Canada because people are all upset over the Trump tariff thing. I'm going to say this right now. Justin Trudeau put us there. Let's point the blame where it belongs. Justin Trudeau put us there. I'm getting sick and tired of hearing about hockey games where they're booing the U.S. anthem. And Pierre Poilievre, our next prime minister, has told people, don't do that. Don't do that. And I'm here to say, too, I love the United States. I was there once for Chiller. I have a lot of wonderful guests out of the States, regardless who your president is. I've especially yourself, I've experienced wonderful guests. I will never boo the U.S. anthem. And I agree with Pierre Polyev. We got to put the blame certainly where it needs to go. True dope. But
How in
there's a
the
lot.
heck did we get from
How
Saturday
did
Night Live to
how
all of
did we
this?
get there? I'm going to tell you how we got there because the Tom Hanks thing was over the people that a sketch about uh, people who supported Trump. Now and one person asked online. They said, "What was so tasteless about it?" And I responded with this. I responded the same way I heard somebody else online respond. Would they have done this joke about Joe Biden or Kamala Harris? And I'm not saying they should or shouldn't. I think comedy is subjective. Everything should, But Tom Hanks right now on that 50th anniversary, instead of it being a celebration, now it's Tom Hanks deleting the comments on his Instagram and facing a massive backlash. I'm like, they should have taken a step back, left the politics out, and celebrate Saturday Night Live.
Keep
And
something. Okay, you're
yeah.
conflating two different evenings, by the way. The evening of the special, this did not happen.
Oh,
They
did
had
not?
another
Okay.
evening of music, just music. That's when this happened. That's when Tom walked out. He did not walk out of the live special that was on NBC for 3 hours.
You see,
See,
that's a difference. I only have my Blu-ray set up there, so I didn't see this one.
all right,
Okay.
just so you know, just so you know.
Okay. This is why I have you on here. Okay. Okay. I did not know that. Okay. By the way, I think you have a wonderful country, and I think that the booing should stop. But you'll never hear me boo your country, because you got wonderful people like yourself there.
I try really hard when I'm on the air or on media not to discuss politics in a negative way or get caught up in hysteria.
Hmm.
Um, I am not a fan of the current administration. That's not a secret. I'm waiting to see what'll happen. And if it goes really badly, my voice will be heard. But I'm not going to spend every single day looking for reasons to get upset and
Oh,
and
there's a lot
and
of that.
and angry
Hmm.
because the long game is going to require, no matter which side of this you believe in, our energy. And if we get all worked up and all depleted, we won't have a voice at all.
Hmm.
So I don't, oh my goodness, some celebrity of either side said this or did
Yeah.
this, or, oh, her nipples. I don't care. I just don't.
Well, if it
Uh,
was Burt Reynolds, you might have.
um, Burt Reynolds, I'm going to be serious with you about this. He's teasing me, folks, because he knows that I think that Burt Reynolds was the sexiest man who ever lived.
And I'm the second.
And he's
He
the
says,
second. He's the second. But whatever problems Bert had in his private life,
I love Burt.
he did not go public with them, and
Hmm.
he did not use his celebrity for causes or feel bad for me because I suffer from fill in the blank. Again, as private citizens, we're all allowed to support political things and charities. And I'm not saying that actors and performers don't have the right to do that. I'm saying I don't react to that because life's too short.
You know what? You are absolutely right. You are
I,
absolutely right.
I
But
usually
yeah,
am.
yeah. But getting back to Saturday Night Live, though, it's like I agree with you. They should have made it about the history, about the history of it. I'm glad you're telling me about what went wrong with the movie, because I thought to me it was one of the best films of the year, but I'm looking at it very much as an outsider, you
Look,
know?
as a film,
Yeah.
as a motion picture for entertainment, it
Hmm.
was a great film. It was well made. But if you're looking to it as a historical document of any kind,
Hmm.
it just doesn't fly at all. Milton Berle and I were friends.
I love Milton Berle. Yeah.
And in fact, my literary agent's trying to talk me into writing a book about Milton Berle. Um, so, folks out there, if you'd like a book on Milton Berle, let Greg know.
Yes.
He'll tell me whether or not I should write this book. But
Yes.
there was great conflict the week that Milton hosted Saturday Night Live. And I understand both sides of it. By the time Milton did this show, I think he was in the fourth season.
Hmm.
The show was a well-oiled machine by then. All right. They did things their way. All right. They told their hosts what to do. Okay. Well, first of all, Milton was aghast at the drug use. There was cocaine and marijuana everywhere. He couldn't fathom people working under under those situations, and couldn't fathom NBC looking the other way, because NBC was his network. He was the first television star on NBC. The second thing is they were trying to, oh, you old man, you don't know anything. No, he just did live 1 hour comedies every week, variety shows, doing sketches and music with 2 minutes of commercials out of 60. So he had 58 minutes to fill, for which he was personally responsible. He designed the very studio in which they worked. And they were trying to tell him he didn't know what he was talking about. It's like, you young people are idiots. I designed all this. They wouldn't show him respect. They were, we're a big hit, up yours. And the story goes, after that, Lauren banned Milton Berle. Well, Lauren had every right to ban him, but Milton's side of the story is never told. I heard it from Milton.
Hmm.
I never saw Milton be anything other than a professional. He was demanding. He demanded that everyone around him do their best, just like every other big star I've ever known demanded quality. They demanded, hey, we're all different on different days, but whatever you've got today, you better bring it to the table. That's how we stay in show business. That's how we make people happy. That's how we earn our money. And Milton was very serious about show business. They were all giggling and laughing and doing drugs and throwing food at each other and running around the hallways naked. And is like, now they were every week somehow able to put together a really good show out of that chaos. They did. But Milton didn't know that. And when you have someone of that stature, if Bob Hope had ever hosted, if Lucille Ball had ever hosted, if Carol Burnett had ever hosted, if Red Skelton had ever hosted, they would have had the same reactions.
I don't doubt it.
What are you kids doing? How can I do my best if you're not supporting me? Oh, we don't do rehearsals here. Oh, we don't deliver it. Just read it off the cue cards. Well, how can you be fun? This would be their question.
Hmm.
How can you be funny if you don't know what you're talking about? Oh, but we all do it and everybody laughs. You very well may. But are they good laughs? Are they memorable laughs? Or are they throwaway laughs? Because big stars didn't want throwaway. They wanted meat and potatoes laughs. They didn't want, the pickle on the side laughs. If that makes sense to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
I understand Lauren and the cast and the writers thinking he was old fashioned because he was old fashioned. And I understand Milton thinking they were a bunch of young, drugged out fools because they were a bunch of young, drugged out fools who somehow managed to put on an incredibly good show.
Milton Berle is somebody they need to look up to. Was there any truth to in the movie to his little back and forth with Chevy Chase?
The back and forth never happened. Milton
Okay.
was not in the building that night.
Okay.
Okay. When Milton hosted the show, by the time Milton hosted the show, Chevy was long gone. So now, did Chevy make some comments about Milton Berle? Yes, but not to his face. Milton didn't live in New York. Milton was living in Beverly Hills. And he wouldn't have been at Rockefeller Center Studio 8H every week to have come in contact with these people. You know, maybe a couple times a year he went to New York, and maybe he'd appear. The local NBC station, WNBC in New York, had a show called Live at Five. And I'm using his voice because the same man was the narrator and the announcer for Live at Five. Yeah, Milton could be funny and take over and push people out of the way, but they knew what they got with Milton Berle. If you have him on the show, that's what you expect.
Hmm.
Also, and Milton taught me this. If you're on a show where you're being interviewed and it's dull, take over. Don't just sit there and be dull. Push them out of the way. They're coming back tomorrow anyway. You're not. So make sure you're funny and you're good and you get in the spotlight. And if they won't put you there, just take it away from them. And I cannot tell you how many dozens and dozens of times I've had to do that in my life because Milton Berle taught me how.
I know Milton Berle was made an appearance in the Muppet movie, I believe it was.
Yeah.
Yes, right. I saw that at the drive-in when I was young. It's been a while since I've seen it, but I bet you Milton had I'm going to assume he had a better experience on that.
Jim Henson was a total professional who believed in
Hmm.
rehearsal. They had to have
Hmm.
stringent rehearsals because, you got hands up puppets behinds
Yeah.
and they have to work well and move well and be in the right places. So yeah, anytime there was rehearsal, um, Milton, want to see Milton in a film? Watch It's a Mad, 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 Mad World. He's one of the big stars in that film, and he's wonderful in it. Playing a put upon milk toast who has Ethel Merman for a mother-in-law who's constantly berating him.
And of course, folks, that's Milton Berle and Ethel Merman, two of the tributes that we've done on
We've
here
done.
with Geoffrey Mark. And
We should do sometime a tribute to It's a Mad, 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 Mad World because
oh
you've
yeah.
also got Mickey Rooney, Buddy Hackett, Sid Caesar, Edie Adams, William Demarest, Zasu Pitts. I mean, Spencer Tracy. Everyone is in this film, and I've known most of them. Um, I've gotten to speak to almost all the stars of that film about that film. And of course, the great Stanley Kramer directed it, and I'm friends with his daughter Kat and his wife. So I have a personal interest in that one as well.
Oh, we should do that. We should definitely do that.
Or
Absolutely.
we should do a show about the Beverly Hills Friars Club, of which I was a member.
You know what? You had mentioned that to me before. Yes, we should do that. I had
And
totally
that's
forgotten
that's
about.
that's that's how I first met Milton. The
Yeah.
comedian, the comedian Jack Carter took me there to meet Milton,
Hmm.
and we bonded instantly because I knew what I was talking about. Milton didn't suffer fools gladly, but if
No.
you knew show business history, he had great respect for you. And I was brought into the Milton Berle Club very, very quickly. In fact, I don't think I was there half an hour, and he invited me to go to the men's room with him because uh, if he liked you, uh, how do I say this nicely, Canada? He took you into the men's room and showed you his enormous penis. And that was the rite of passage. That like, okay, you're accepted into my little club. So yes, it is true. It was enormous.
I got to admit, though, in the Saturday night movie, I just sat there in awe when it showed him looked at like dominate Chevy in that because I'm kind of thinking if that were reality, Milton Berle would have done that. He would have won that.
I don't think Milton would have done that, quite frankly. He only did it with people he liked and
No,
trusted.
I'm saying that he would have. Not saying he would have done it. I'm saying it's like comparing one of today's wrestlers to Bruno Sammartino. It's like,
Yes.
don't, you know, Milton Berle is the Bruno Sammartino in this situation. That's what I'm saying.
I don't think Chevy was about 35 years old in the first episode. He looked younger, but he was
Mhm.
older than most of the rest of the cast, who were like in their early 20s. But I don't think any of them had the chops to go up against someone who had as much experience as Milton Berle did.
There, that's you just named it. That's what I was trying to get across.
Yeah.
You articulated it much better than me. But I gotta say that it was like cool to see that. Was there anything the Saturday night movie got right that you remember?
I mean, the chaos backstage was right. Um, the first thing that hit me, like, how did they know? There was this scene of a young, tall, long-haired man handing out tickets, like getting people to come in to be the audience.
Mhm.
The guy was perfect. That's what he wore. That's what he looked like. I mean, they really found someone spot on, except he did not stand on 6th Avenue doing that. It was around the corner in the back of the building that they did it on the other side of the street. So that they got wrong. But the chaos was there. The whole thing about some live animal and they caught the spirit of what happened, but not much more. Yes, the opening sketch was I want to feed your fingertips to the Wolverines. That was true. Um, Carlin, who was a lovely man, by the way, off stage. George Carlin was a lovely, lovely,
I'm a huge George Carlin fan.
gentle, intelligent man. But he was angry that night. He almost didn't go on because NBC insisted that he wear a jacket. So he wore a jacket with a vest and a t-shirt. That was his protest. Um, they didn't know how to plan the show out, but they weren't cutting stuff while it was live. They had a dress rehearsal. They knew what again, they exaggerated things to bring, oh gosh, what's going to happen next to the film. It wasn't necessary. If they had been honest about what happened that night, it would have been fascinating. It would have been like you can't take your eyes off the movie. As it turns out, it's an enjoyable film. That's what I said when it was over. I was watching it alone, but as if there were people sitting here, I said out loud, well, I was there. That's not how it was, but I enjoyed the movie. So that's my impression of the film.
The stuff about them going live and not knowing whether John Belushi was coming on, was that true?
To an extent. And that was
Mhm.
true almost every week.
Okay.
I think John did it. See, the bigger conflict was between John and Chevy. Chevy saw himself, whether it was his agent or Dick Ebersol, who was the liaison with the NBC network, or Lauren himself, saw himself as this gorgeous, hunky, muscular, funny guy who was going to just take the world by storm. It was his show, and then everybody else. Well, John Belushi didn't see it that way. I'm sure John was jealous of Chevy's height and good looks and his all American boyish sex appeal. And John didn't think that's what the show was about. He felt Saturday Night Live was the opposite of that. It's for the underdogs. It's for the underground. It's for the potheads. It's for the college people. It's for other folks. This isn't Bob Hope time. And I don't know that anybody in that show really cried when Chevy left. Because when he left and Billy Murray was brought in and Jane Curtin was doing the news and Gilda was given more time, everybody blossomed after Chevy left. Uh, so it worked out well for Chevy's career. It worked out well for the rest of the cast.
Dan Aykroyd still continued to work with Chevy Chase, though. I do know that, but I think Dan Aykroyd coordinated well with everybody.
Well, Canadians are very, very polite people who get along well. Um, Dan, in more recent years, has had health issues and he's gained a tremendous amount of weight. And
I met him years ago. He was doing a signing here for his wine. And it was so I got a picture with him and I brought the DVD for the Blues Brothers to get him to sign, and he signed it. And it was so cool to meet him. And there's a lot of people with either Ghostbusters or Blues Brothers stuff to be signed, but it was really cool to meet Dan Aykroyd in person, you know?
no, Danny didn't push himself in the spotlight the way John and Chevy did.
Hmm.
I think whatever Chevy and John brought to the table, Danny could match them.
Hmm.
Quite frankly, if I had been given a choice, Geoffrey Mark, you get to have sex with handsome, muscular Chevy Chase, or you get to have sex with Danny Aykroyd, I would have pushed Chevy out of the way for Danny, who was, as far as I was concerned, just as handsome, just as muscular, a lot warmer, and a lot more malleable is the wrong word. I think Danny had scope. He could play all kinds of things. Chevy pretty much played the good-looking pothead kind of guy,
Hmm.
and the pratfalls, which got him in trouble. I don't know if you remember this, but he fell every time they were introducing the show
Hmm.
live from New York. It was always Chevy saying that the first season after he'd fallen, and well, in one of those times he really hurt himself. I mean, to the point where he was written out of the rest of the show and sent to the hospital. He was in the hospital for weeks. And that's where Chevy got on pills and had a long-term pill addiction and was never really the same after that. Danny could sing, Danny could dance, Danny was funny, Danny could play drama, Danny played the harmonica, Danny could be the goofball, Danny could be the sexy leading man. I mean, when they did this sketch with Lily Tomlin, which so the sketch they show of the women and there's a guy they're going boom chicka boom hey baby, that didn't happen in the first episode. That happened in the second episode with Lily Tomlin. But who did they pick to do that in the short shorts and show off his butt and legs? Not Chevy, Dan Aykroyd. And I still think one of the funniest things ever on Saturday Night Live was Dan's uh, hugely just hysterical uh, poking fun at the French chef and Julia Child cutting her finger open and bleeding to death over a turkey, on live television. That and his incredible impression of Tom Snyder, which Tom loved, by the way. Tom and I were friends. And Tom thought Danny was brilliant with it. Like he was like, wow, I'm famous enough for people to be making fun of on a variety show. Good for me. And he appreciated that Danny was good looking because Tom was very handsome. So yeah, for me, what I looked for on the show was Gilda and Danny Aykroyd. Those are the two that made me laugh the most.
You know, I've heard a lot of. I'm a huge fan of John Belushi. I'm sad he went the way he did because I got to wonder where he would be. I've interviewed three of the Blues Brothers band, and I've heard all the stories about John. Here's the thing about John, and this is why I put him as one of the best talents. Here's a guy. The Blues Brothers to me is his biggest triumph because he and Dan had did that sketch, the Blues Brothers, and they
Right.
turned it into a movie. The movie was phenomenal because yeah, you had all the car chases and the car pileups, but what a tribute it was to the blues artists. And that was something they both had a passion for. And they
Absolutely.
got all these blues artists. So Belushi had a musical side, but you see Belushi also with few words, but dominating presence in Animal House. Spielberg got similar thing out of him in 1941. He also did The Continental Divide, where it was a little more dramatic. And then you see him in Neighbors, where he was supposed to be the crazy one and Aykroyd the straight man. And instead you got John playing the straight man. And I'm sitting here thinking, where would John be today? I'm going to make a prediction. I think John had the caliber to be an Oscar winner had he
Oh,
stuck with it.
please understand anything I say about John Belushi, there is no one can denigrate his talent.
Oh yeah,
But, and there's
he
a
had
but
some
here.
issues. Yeah,
Well, he didn't play well with others. He had to dominate. It had to be his way. Well, when you're doing a show where it's a group of people, it can't always be your way. You've got to bend to the other people, make them look good too.
I think that's why Dan Aykroyd works so well.
Well, Danny anchored him. Dan Aykroyd anchored John Belushi down to earth a little bit. Dan's love for him made you love John even more because you saw Dan's love for him. We've talked at length that I'm 35 years into recovery from drug and alcohol abuse. John was already going down the rabbit hole before the show even started. And he allowed his addictions, his ego, his fears to rule him. And look, you just enumerated great work he did. Yes, how much more great work could he have done?
Yeah,
I think what happens to a lot of young, funny people is after a while, as they age, unless they reinvent themselves, they stop being so funny. You know, Billy Murray is not really making movies anymore, not really. Dan Aykroyd is not working anymore. Chevy Chase is not working anymore. Jane Curtin is retired. Garrett Morris is retired. Uh, there are people who just, Jerry Lewis was not as funny at 45 as he was at 25. Red Skelton was not as funny at 50 as he was at 30. Lucille Ball was not quite as funny at 65 as she was at 35 or 45. Just age has something to do with it. If you're playing the same kind of characters over and over again, if one is has more scope, that's why if people like Betty Davis and Spencer Tracy and Katharine Hepburn, they worked until either cancer ate them up or they dropped dead because they took pretty good care. I mean, Spencer had the alcohol problem, but the other ladies took good care of themselves and allowed themselves to age. We'll never know if John would have allowed himself to age or whether he would be playing the aging stoned hippie the rest of his life or not. We just will never
yeah,
know. And
yeah. No, I never expected to talk about Saturday Night Live on here, but like I said, I love that you gave me this hist. This is why I think you're one of the greatest guests I have on here because of the knowledge you have and just what you bring to the table. Because now when I see Saturday Night that movie again, I'm going to be looking at it through a different lens. And I like that you brought that to me because too often we just accept what's there, you know. And I'll give you a good example. I mentioned the politic thing. Um, they had somebody had put a piece on Pierre Poilievre making a statement. Well, one of the channels I listened to, because the statement was degrading, But one of the channels I listen to put the statement into contrast. The media coverage were trying to smear him by cutting something up.
Oh, sure.
Yep. And so the channel I was listening to said, you know what? This is what was actually said. And I think it was CBC was smearing him. This is why Polyev wants to defund the CBC because they're one-sided. Well, this is what happens when a lot of these movies get made. And I enjoyed Saturday Night, don't get me wrong. I love the movie, but I gotta say, I'm loving hearing this part right here, like
And friends who are watching and listening, we had nothing specifically planned to talk about tonight other than me.
mhm.
And just for whatever reason, the second sentence we got to Saturday Night Live, and we're 45 minutes almost into the show. We haven't talked about me at all. So that's how sometimes it works. Well, hopefully you're enjoying it.
You know what? I've always enjoyed. I love free wrangling when I come on here, because this is not about me. I know I'm the host, but to me, it's the guest, And I love having you come on here because I know you're going to bring, it's like they say in This is Spinal Tap, you're going to take it up to 11. And you've done that. You've taken it up to 21 in just 45 minutes, You know?
There was a wonderful comedian, female comic named Belle Barth.
Hmm.
Um, if you picture a chubby, late middle-aged lady with bleached blonde hair and too much makeup and too tight a dress, but her humor was adult and risque back in the 50s. So she was almost never on television. She did with those what they used to call party records that were, you buy them like with brown wrapping paper and you took them home and everybody had drinks and she made you laugh. But on one of her records, she said whatever she said, and people like she brought it up to the levels. And she looked at her audience and said, "Ain't I refreshing like a douche?" Which back then was like scandalous to say it for a woman of that age to say it, never mind anyone to say it. But sometimes I think about that when I get compliments on ain't I refreshing like a douche?
You are refreshing. Yeah. But no, that's like just your history. I've always said, you should write a book about all your history with this. Of course, you'd probably be writing. I,
The name of the book, which is copyrighted, so don't steal it, is called "The Devil Was Born in Brooklyn," and
I gotta say this.
all these stories are in it.
I gotta say though, it's really cool that I have all these interviews too, because it's like, I've had people ask me who I've had on here more than anybody, and I said, well, I've got a category on that, but really the one I've had on here more than anybody is you.
I'm
But I
grateful.
said there's kind of categories because I said Geoffrey Mark's about to make his five-time appearance about himself, but he's done the tributes where we're focusing on certain individuals. But he's also a third category. He interviewed me on my 50th birthday,
Yeah, we've done like what 12 or 13 shows together at this point,
We've done
and
we've done a lot. Now, like Scotty McCoy, one of my podcast friends, he's been on here 9 times, but it's always been about him. That's why it says Scotty McCoy interview 9, where this will say Geoffrey Mark interview 5, whereas say Milton Berle will say Milton Berle tribute with Geoffrey Mark. Not any less important, but that's how I kind of categorize them. But yeah, I'm always proud to say, yeah, Geoffrey Mark on here more than anybody. He always brings it, you know, always brings it. But I gotta say too, I know I reached out to you during the LA fires. I'm glad you're all right.
thank you.
No, I know I called you because I tried to get in touch with as many people as I could to see how things were. And I was surprised some people really reacted well. Like I sent a text to Tony Basil, who I had on in 2020, and she was very thankful. I reached out. She was fine, but I remember she sent a picture of what her friend had taken out her window of what was going on. And,
Yeah.
you
Too
know,
too many people I love dearly got hurt. Lost homes entirely, lost parts of their homes, lost cars,
yeah,
lost work, are displaced, don't have a place to live, lost their jobs. It was just awful. You have no idea. I couldn't even really fathom because I live about 110 miles from Los Angeles out here in the desert.
mhm,
And we got some of the bad air from LA from the fires. And there were some fires that were as close as I think 30 miles from where I am. Because it wasn't just a fire. There were a dozen different fires all over Southern California that all happened in like a 10-day period of time. But to watch buildings I had been in burning to the ground, watching homes I had been in, and all that's left is like rubble as if a huge bomb had exploded the whole house out. How do you make sense of that? I guess I haven't played enough video games. When I see that, I still find it horrific.
yeah.
The My prayers go to all these friends of mine who have been hurt by this, and the unnamed people I don't know who have been hurt by it. But yeah, you reached out to me, and that's why we're here together because,
Yeah.
hey, yeah, it's time for us to get together again on the air and have some fun.
I need to ask, how's Harlan doing?
He's asking about my publicist and one of my closest friends, Harlan Bowl. I saw Harlan last night. The Hollywood Museum had a wonderful tribute to Black History Month
Hmm.
with wonderful speakers. And Harlan is one of the two publicists for the museum, as well as being my publicist. He looks great. He looks handsome. If anyone checks out my Facebook page tomorrow, I will show you pictures of me with Harlan and with Erin Murphy, Tabitha from Bewitched, and with Jerry Mathers, the Beaver from Leave It to Beaver, and Frida Payne, and some of the other people who were there, like George, and of course, I take as many pictures with George Takeidas as possible because I love that man so much.
I
So
gotta
it's been
say,
nice.
Harlan, I gotta say, you know, uh, he was one of the ones connected me. Of course, first was Peter Mark Richmond's daughter, but then I reached out to Harlan, and Harlan Bulla was very nice with me, and
He's very nice with everybody.
yeah,
He is Harlan Bowl of the people I know who are still alive. He's
hmm.
the most ethical human being I know. Sweet, greatly intelligent, 6'3", incredibly good looking,
He was taller
incredibly
than me.
incredibly talented. And I'm very grateful, very, very, very grateful he is my friend, and very
Hmm.
grateful that he's my publicist.
I think you have a great publicist. I think he's a wonderful guy. I think I only spoke to him once on the phone. I think it was um, when I interviewed Peter Mark Richmond for the second time. I remember he had mentioned,
Another lovely man.
I love Peter Mark Richmond.
Me too. Me too.
He said, call him Peter Mark. And I said, oh, okay, I didn't know that. But but no, I'm glad he's alive. I'm sad that he lost his home. I'm sad about that. But I've heard that by about a couple of people that lost their homes, and that's devastating.
Yeah,
And
literally, he had a lovely home, and what was left of it when all was said and done was a part of the fireplace and a little metal plaque he had next to his front door. Otherwise, everything was just like gone. And yet he suits up and he shows up for work and he shows up for his friends, and he's an amazing, amazing man.
he is absolutely, and he has a wonderful talent in you. Now, does he dress as cool and classy as you?
He dresses, look, he is big, tall, long-legged, brawny. He doesn't have the same image I do. Um,
You have the ultimate image.
I love you too. He walks down the street and he gets noticed. I walk down the street, I get noticed for different reasons. Um, but yeah, he doesn't need the sparkles. He sparkles all on his own. And we've talked before about why I dress like this and how
I
it
love that you dress like that. Even like I love the
wasn't
purple. You don't see purple enough.
it wasn't my idea. For those of you who didn't see any of the 47 shows we've done together,
Hmm.
wonderful Rip Taylor, wonderful comedian. If you don't know who he is, look him up. Came to see me perform in Los Angeles. I said, let's go out to dinner. And we did. And he said, Geoffrey, you are magic on the stage, but you're dressed like a fucking accountant. And he sent me shopping. And I'd started with one hat. And from one hat, then wonderful Kay Ballard told me to wear sparkly scarves.
I love it.
Carol Channing told me to wear earrings and diamonds. And Laurie Marshall, wonderful Peter Marshall, my friend who just passed away, his wife said wear sparkly shoes. And kind of my show business friends taught me how to dress. And Dawn Wells, wonderful Marianne
Oh
from
yeah,
Gilligan's
love
Island.
Dawn.
Dawn was one of my closest friends I've ever had in my life.
She's another one we did a tribute on.
Yes.
I
And
wish I could have met her.
she would have loved you.
Yeah.
Um, and she said, never ever leave your house without your sparkles. Every time you leave your house, remember, you're a celebrity now. Every time you leave your house, it's a public appearance. So I don't take out the trash without sparkles on, just in case. I don't go to the store without sparkles on. And
And
you know what?
I
Go ahead.
also really dig the facial hair, the red, and you got the white right there in the middle. That's classy.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
The beard was my idea. The
Hmm.
skunk stripe, a hairdresser I went to said, you know what? You have a kind of a round face. Why don't you try a skunk stripe? It'll make your face look longer. And he was right, and I've been doing it ever since.
I think it looks really cool.
Thank you.
I think it's really cool, you know?
I cut my beard a little too short this week. It looks like it's patchy, but it's not. It just I cut it too short. It'll get thicker again,
Yeah.
like
We're
yours.
we're joined by a couple guests this week. Look, Bruno Sammartino has stopped by here.
Yeah, what happened to all of his body hair? I don't see any body hair on that Bruno
Well,
Sammartino.
somebody else has showed up here with got body hair. Morning, George the Animal Steel. He wants to know why he's not on your top sexy list.
I'm one of the few people you know who saw George wrestle at Madison Square Garden.
Yeah.
Uh, it was a very strange thing going to see professional wrestling. This would have been in the late 70s in New York City. And there was more action. So there's these thousands of young men, and whether they were there because they were full of machismo, or they loved wrestling, or they were gay and liked seeing half-naked men tossing each other around, it wasn't nearly as wild as it was on television because this was a lot less controlled. But in the audience, the nunchucks and the brass knuckles and the knives and the leather and the chains, I was almost afraid, like, how the hell am I going to get out of this place? Because there was so much infighting in the audience, it was hard to watch what was going on in the square.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know what? I did this once. I am never doing this again.
George
Maybe,
showed up here. He's
maybe,
up. He's up. So he wants to know if he's number three behind me.
well, we'll talk. There are a lot of people who want to be number three. You haven't even taken off your shirt for me yet. Good. I'm just basing this on what I'm seeing in the because we've never met in person because we're 4,000 miles away from each other.
Oh, trust me, nobody outside you, nobody wants to see me take my shirt off.
Maybe for my birthday this year, you'll do me a favor.
Skittles runs out of the room when I get undressed.
I'm not a cat, baby.
As Rodney Dangerfield said, I said, A hooker once told me she had a headache.
I almost, when some people, I'm talking about professional people,
Uh-huh.
make fun of how they look. If they truly are unattractive, all right, it's good for them to say it before the audience does. But you're so damn good looking, you make fun of yourself. It's like you shouldn't do that. You really shouldn't. You should
I,
own.
I I do it because if I can't make fun of myself, how can I go after other people in a playful manner, you know? Like I got a lot of that from Rodney Dangerfield, but I Rodney got me through a lot of depressing moments because I always thought Rodney was cool, even though he said he got no respect. Adrienne Barbeau had on the show one time. She said he may have said he got no respect, but I was on the set for Back to School and he had a lineup of women outside his trailer. So that's something yeah, that he never talks about.
You know who else had that effect on women and you would never think of it?
Uh,
Don Knotts.
Don knows. I had his
Mm.
daughter on here,
Karen. I love Karen.
Karen.
We're friends. Don, it's okay to use language, yes?
Yeah, go ahead.
Don was a pussy hound. Women threw themselves at him. I mean, to the respect of his other comedian friends who would like, we're tall and muscular and handsome, and he's getting all the women. There was something about him that just drew women in. It was amazing to see it in action. The other person like that, uh, and you folks, I have to tell you who this is because you may not recognize the name, is William Asher. My
I
friend
know
William
that
Asher.
name.
William Asher was the primary director of I Love Lucy. He was the producer, director, and sometimes writer of all those beach blanket movies, the Frankie and Annette. But he is best known as Elizabeth Montgomery's husband and the producer and the director of Bewitched. And women threw themselves at. I was out to dinner with Bill and his wife out here in the desert. Very upscale. This is not a hangout place. This is a very expensive, exclusive restaurant. And we're having dinner, the three of us. Two different women walked up to the table. His wife is sitting there and just blatantly offered themselves to him. And this happened every time we were out of the house. There are just certain men that have this, a pheromone they give off, uh, uh, um, an energy they give off. Now I have it, and you're going to laugh at me. I wish gay men could smell it on me. I get attention from straight men who are a little curious. Um, my relationships have been with men who were primarily straight, but for some reason with me were open. My partner of 47 years was that way. Blessed Jack Riley from the Bob Newhart show was that way. And we won't discuss my latest because I've already mentioned his name once. I don't want to embarrass him, but a very large star who's won an Oscar, who I saw last night. But
Oh,
but we are no longer dating. We're just loving friends.
okay. All right. So do you think George the Animal Steel had women throw themselves at him?
I think George Animal Steel had men throwing themselves at him.
I love George. Oh man. No, I think that's amazing. I know you mentioned you said I was number two to Burt Reynolds. Have you ever met Burt Reynolds in person?
I talked to him on the phone. I never got to spend time with him in person.
Okay.
Bert, in the latter part of his life, was having some mental health issues.
Yeah.
He had become agoraphobic. He didn't like leaving the house. He didn't like being in crowds. And I got to know him through Dom DeLuise, who was a dear friend of mine.
Ah,
And
Dom,
I would
yes.
and I would go to Dom's house in Pacific Palisades. That house burned down too.
Oh.
Oh, his house burned down, Bob Schiller's house burned down, Nanette Fabre's house burned. I mean, these people are all passed away now, but the houses have also passed away now. But Dom would call Bert while I was there, and we would. interact, and there's just something about Burt Reynolds, the way he looked, the way he moved, how he was built,
He
his
was
laugh,
cool.
his intellect, his sense of silly. Uh, and there are just some men, and I think you're one of them, who just sort of radiate masculinity without being toxically masculine. You
You
know,
know, it's interesting you say that because some of the men that I aspire to be like, and I don't mean like be like carbon copy, but there's things I get from them to help me. Sometimes I can poke fun of myself, like I mentioned the Rodney Dangerfield thing, but there are male celebrities out there that I'm like, I like what he has. It helps me carry myself. I remember when I gave myself a makeover, one of my inspirations was John Travolta in Saturday Night Fever, that opening scene.
sure.
John brings that out in me. Cary Grant, to a large extent, and Burt Reynolds is another one. Because Burt is just a really, really cool guy, you know?
You've mentioned three bisexual men who have had this effect on you. Not to make any ass,
Mhm.
but
Well, it's
oh,
funny because I'm a
I
straight
know,
guy, but
I
it's
know you are. I know
you
you
know,
are.
yeah, look, I'm not offended. I'm not offended. I'm actually honored that you say I'm number two to Burt Reynolds. Like that to me is equivalent to an Academy Award to me. I mean, and I mean that, you know, the fact you say that. I'm not one bit offended. I'm like, like,
Now, why should you be?
nope, nope, nope. Actually, I was talking to my coworker. I have a coworker overnight, and she says to me, she says, "What are you gonna do? You go home and dream about Emma Stone?" And I said, "First, I'm going to have a nice, awesome interview with Geoffrey Mark, but I do have an all over Emma Stone shirt because Emma Stone is my crush." But
You
I've
have good
said to
taste.
here's what I've said to people, and a lot of people said they've never heard this before. I said, I have my greatest relationship with Emma Stone. And people say, isn't she married? And I say, yeah, that's part of it. You see, she's got a movie coming out this fall, and that's the next time she expects me to see her. She expects me to be there at that movie. So I'm going to try to be there at that movie. I'm going to spend money on her for that movie. And for however long that movie is, she's going to get on there and entertain me, and she'll probably look stunning and she's going to be funny and all that stuff because Emma Stone's a tremendous talent, you know. And
So,
but
so you have a very healthy one-handed relationship with her
yeah, so I often said,
that
I'm
whizzed right
thinking
past
after
you.
the movie's over, she's going to be happy I supported her movie. She's going to go back to her husband. I'm going to come home. I hope her husband and her stay together forever. I hope it lasts because I envy her husband. But I'm going to say this. Her husband sees what she's like behind closed doors. I know what I'm like to live with. Skittles can put up with me. I don't know if an actual woman could put up with any of my habits because I know what I'm like, you know. But I'm like, I don't need a physical relationship with her, you know. I'm like, I'm happy just being on the sideline. So I often say, I have a great relationship with Emma. We don't have to talk. She doesn't have to see my bad habits. I only, that's all she wants me to go to her movies. When I was in Toronto, I saw Poor Things, you know, and I drove 2 hours to Moncton to see Kinds of Kindness, which she was amazing. And that's what she expects after that.
I think you missed my punchline.
What was your punchline?
You have a one-handed relationship with her.
Yeah, I do. But I think she is.
That's funny because you just kept talking and talking. It's like, I did a funny. Stop for a second.
Yeah, it's interesting because there are various talents that I'll go to the movies to see because whether their movie is good or bad, and Emma Stone's done some duds, but I've always liked her, you know, because she strikes me as somebody that'd be really cool to hang out with, you know. But that's a projection I'm getting. You know, Anna Kendrick's got a nice, cool, quirky personality too that I really like, you know. But I have to say,
Thank you. Thank you for sharing your masturbatory fantasies with us.
yeah.
Now then,
I like Margot
this,
Robbie, the Barbie
this
movie. Did you go to the Barbie movie? Did you?
no, no, gosh darn it, I missed that one.
Come on,
Um,
Ryan Gosling took his shirt off.
Big deal.
Are you saying I'm better than Ryan Gosling?
If I had my choice between the two of you, I would choose you.
Yes. This. I wonder if Emma Stone would have chose me. She worked with him twice. I doubt. I doubt if I took my shirt off, she'd look at me and say, "You look, you look, whatever, photo, whatever." I don't think she'd say that to me.
You know what? Six pack abs do nothing for me, and if the person doesn't appeal to me, if the face doesn't appeal to me, my rule of thumb basically is if I like what you've got from here up, I don't care what you have from here down. And you could have an enormous from here down, and I don't care if I don't care about this part. So,
You know what? You got a lot of point there because that's the first thing you see when you look at somebody.
I'm a strange man.
Hmm.
I really am kind of a romantic.
Hmm.
And if and when I indulge with somebody, uh, you'll read the book when it comes out next year or the year after. I was a busy boy as a young man. I mean, thousands of people. But as I've gotten older and clean and sober, and then since my partner died, Joel, I'm very picky about with whom I will. I have to like them. I have to have affection for them. I have to trust them, or I'd rather watch some porn and be by myself. So the names I just mentioned to you are the ones, those three people have meant the most to me. And not that they aren't all three incredibly good looking men, but um, I don't do it just for sport anymore. Just for sport, I watch professionals do their jobs, and
Hmm.
I'm here enjoying myself. Uh, but to interact with someone, that they got to bring more to the table than just a muscle or an appendage, or if I don't want to laugh with them and cuddle with them and kiss them, the rest of it doesn't matter to me
Yeah. No,
anymore.
I certainly get
Anymore.
that.
Now I'm telling you, I was a biz. Don't get me wrong. Remember, Freddie Mercury and I. So
Mm.
I was a busy boy, but times have changed for me.
I think that's cool that you picked me over Ryan Gosling. I'm like, I should put that on my tombstone. I'm number two
Well,
behind Burt Reynolds, and
Greg, Greg, Greg. It's a simple matter, really and truly. Why go for a Gosling when I can get the goose?
there you go. What I
A Gosling is a baby goose, just in case you didn't know.
I have no idea. Skittles might know.
No, that's the joke is a Gosling is a baby goose. Why go for a Gosling when I can get a goose?
Ah,
That's you.
ah. Okay.
Goose,
I didn't know
goose,
Gosling
Gosling.
was a good.
Yeah. If I have to explain them, it's getting like too late for you. Loosen the headband a little bit, which I like, by the way. It looks really good on you.
I've got a few headbands. Yeah, yeah. But nonetheless, how are things going in Los Angeles right now? Like, is
The,
everything?
the, the air is clearer.
Hmm.
And in where I drove last night, I did not see any of the fire areas. So I was really only in downtown Los Angeles and in the heart of Hollywood, because the Hollywood Museum is just around the corner from like Grauman's Chinese Theater and all that stuff. I didn't see any of it, but the air was clear. You could not smell smoke. It was not hazy. I didn't have difficulty breathing because of it, but I didn't take a tour. Uh, there are times I go to Los Angeles, I'll stay for a couple of days, and then I really get to soak up what's going on. And there are times like last night, I'm in and I'm back out again, and I come back to the desert. So last night was an in and out, but I had a wonderful time. And all of you folks out there, I'll give them a little commercial who are celebrating Black History Month, as everybody should. There is a magnificent exhibit at the Hollywood Museum, and I thoroughly encourage you to partake of it if you happen to be in Los Angeles.
I may get there sometime. I got to New Jersey last year, so I did
Yeah,
get that far.
3,000 miles away from New Jersey. Just so you know.
Yeah, you're 4 hours behind me here, so I'm like, yeah, like I said, I'd love to come out there sometime because I've had a lot of interview guests that would like to see me come out there. I'm like, well, give it time. I never thought I'd go to Toronto. And Lisa Langlois invited me in 2017. I never planned to go anywhere. So it's really interesting how this has opened up for me, and really, like I just got done an 8 hour cleaning job. And then before that, I did a 3 hour cleaning job in another building and a 2 hour in another building. So I put in a lot of work before coming on here, but I just consider myself like I'm lucky to do this. I'm lucky to be able to do this.
For those of you who are watching and are wondering about the timeline here, it is 8:14 where he is. He has not gone to bed yet. It is 4:14 where I am, and I haven't gone to bed. We've stayed up this late to entertain, and we deserve applause. Let me hear it. No, a little more for us, them out there. Yay. Okay. I hear you, my friends. Thank you so much.
Yeah. I know before we close off, I will bring Skittles on here because I know
Oh,
you
please
like to
do.
see Skittles.
I do. You have a very,
Yes.
very sweet pussycat.
Yes, I have a sweet pussycat. You know what he did the other day? And he only does this in the cold months, but he hadn't done this since last year. I was having my day sleep, and I was startled awake. And I didn't know what startled me awake until I saw it. Yeah, I felt something on my face. It was my cat's whiskers. And I woke
Aw.
up and Skittles wanted to come under the covers because it was a little colder. And Skittles will do that every once in a while. And I'll lift the covers up and he'll come under the covers and curl up by my waist,
I
you
don't
know?
blame him.
So, and he'll stay there. I'm like, yeah, can you breathe all right down there? But I guess he's fine. And when he's ready to come out from under the covers, he comes out from under the covers. But yeah, I love having Skittles around. People have asked me how old he is. He's over 15 years old. I know that. He's still active, you
Well,
know.
you know what? Animals know when they're loved, when they're safe. And
Hmm.
obviously you love and keep Skittles safe. And that's
Hmm.
why you have this wonderful older cat who just adores you.
Well, another thing I do when I come home, I do this with Skittles. I'll get on my knees where my bed is, and I will lay across face down. And Skittles will get on my back, and he'll sit there, and I can hear him purr. And I'll stick my hand back there. He'll rub against my fingers, and I'm like
Hey,
patting him. And
if I got to do that, I'd purr too.
eventually it's like, Skittles, it's getting uncomfortable down here. You want to get up and they'll purr, purr, purr. Like, Skittles, got other things to do. You'll sit there for like 10 minutes. I'm like, eventually it gets really trying, but it's like, eventually he gets bored, gets off. But I love my Skittles. So No, I love your background there. I see your award beside you.
Miami Award, yes.
Yeah. Okay. That's an Emmy award.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's an Emmy Award. And then up here, I have my Grammy nomination, my recognition from the California State Assembly, my recognition from the United States Congress. I have hidden away here my Grammy medal from Tiffany's, and I'm a lucky guy.
You are a lucky guy. I'm a very lucky guy as well, you know. But yeah, no, I love your background.
It's real. That's
Yep.
this is not
Yeah,
AI.
my apartment's a mess. Nobody wants to see my background. I can't get Skittles to clean. Like
No,
Skittles,
this
I
is
can
this is
just
this is my office. This is where I work, and
yeah.
this is where I do. I should plug Geoffrey Mark Plays Zilla, audio podcast, hopefully in the new season to become a video podcast with guest stars coming your way. Then I am co-host on Still Talking every Wednesday at 4 o'clock Pacific time and figure out whatever time zone you're in, where we talk to all kinds of guests. I am a regular contributor to a show out of Seattle. I'm going to be doing once a month a comedy thing for another podcast. So, besides the books I'm writing and the songs I'm singing, I'm doing a lot of broadcasting. I think as we're doing this, because this is turning into a 2 hour show, uh, I think this is my 10th or 11th hour of broadcasting this week. So I'm doing a lot of
Wow.
stuff. No, I love it.
Wow.
I'm a ham. I love it.
I love it too. I'm gonna get Skittles. 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 Your presence is needed. Hi, Skittles.
Hi, Skittles. Look at that handsome face. Yes. Hi,
Yes.
Pussycat.
Pussycat.
And he's saying,
Pussycat.
Daddy, it's time to sleep. Why are you waking me up to be on television?
Skittles. Skittles says, "You're exploiting me. You're exploiting me. You're using me for hits. You're using me." Skittles, you're staying here for free. You're not paying rent, and you haven't cleaned up any of the apartment. So, you're kind of at a disadvantage here.
And he's saying, Get out of my face.
He never scratches or bites. Actually, we've been blessed that way through my family, Any cat we've had or any dog we've had has never been aggressive. And
Oh,
I don't
it's
know,
your good energy because animals are smart.
yeah, but we've never had that, and you know, um, Skittles was a rescue. And I don't know where my nephew got him, and then he pawned them off on my parents. And when my parents went, had to have had their terminal illnesses and had to move into a better living facility, Dad had Skittles stay with me. They kept their Australian Shepherd because they're more dog people, but Dad knew that Skittles would have a good home with me because I was always a cat person, and I loved Skittles. Skittles rubbing against my finger down there though. Skittles like, yeah, yeah. They camera can't see me down here. They can't see how entertaining I am.
Well, while I'm finding the talk of Skittles fascinating, do you have any other
Mhm.
questions for me?
Well, you plugged some events coming up. Do you have anything else coming up this year that you want to plug?
I mean, I'm sure I'll be singing in some nightclub someplace, but I don't have a list right now.
Hmm.
Um, a lot of stuff is happening because I have a new literary agent and I have a new producer and you know, there's a lot of stuff happening out there. So also it depends on the stuff that's happening out there if it affects my career one way or the other. But just I careers always do this in show business. Sometimes it's like this, and sometimes it's like this. But I'm hitting I'm hot now for some reason. and I'm enjoying it. I love what I do. Uh, I celebrated 50 years in show business last year, so I'm in my 51st year in show business.
Wow.
And well, I've been doing this a long time since I was a kid, and I can't imagine what else I'd want to do. I don't think I'll ever going to retire unless show business says get the hell away from me. But as long as I'm wanted to do something, I don't see any. What would I retire to? Watching I Love Lucy 24 hours a day? I mean, Joel is gone, and the kids all live in other parts of the country. My daughter lives in North Dakota, up near you. I mean, not up near you, but up near Canada. And you know, it's it brings me joy. It brings me pleasure. It lets me meet people like Joel Kabik and Jack Riley and George Shakiris, and that brings me happiness. So, why complain? I think I told you the very first time we started talking, I consider myself to be the luckiest guy in the world. My life has been filled with love and filled with activity, and I never got to have my own television variety series, and I never starred in a Broadway show.
I think you would have
But
been fantastic.
thank you. But I've gotten to do everything. And people ask me, what do you do in show business? I said, do you know what circuses? They go, yes. Everything else. Everything else. And I like to think that I do it well. And I'm still this good looking. So, it's a good thing.
I think taking it back to where we started with Saturday Night Live, of all the people on there, um, I know you've met a lot of people. Who from Saturday Night Live have you met that you're taken with in terms of,
Every single person I've met from Saturday Night Live, I was taken with personally. I've never been disappointed in meeting any of those people.
mhm.
Lauren Michaels has a tremendous eye for talent. Of the hundreds of people who have been regulars on that show, a dozen of them were Loxes who probably shouldn't have been hired. But everybody else is wonderful, wonderful attitudes. Um, I probably had the most fun with Gary Kroger, who's a brilliant man, and I support a lot of the things he believes in politically, also. But just couldn't have been warmer, couldn't have been nicer, and none of the people have ever disappointed me. Even Don Pardo was wonderful to meet and watch him work. You're watching people at their best, doing their best. Uh, I have run across people have always asked me like, who in show business has been bad to you? It happens, but if I've met 1,000 people, 6 or 7 of them were jerks. The other, 993 of them were wonderful people. We share something being in show business. There's a sensibility, there's a lifestyle that's hard for people not in the business to understand. It's not about being multimillionaires. It's not about the mansions and the servants and that kind of stuff. That's not what I'm talking about. How we look at life, how we use the talents God gave us, how we treat people, the love we get from all you folks out there who love what we do, the folks who come up to you in the supermarket or the restaurant or the bank president who makes sure you don't wait online or you get the table in the restaurant faster or everybody in the kitchen comes out to your table and wants to meet you kind of stuff. How could you not love that? And
You,
yes, I have worked my handsome ass off to get to that point. I'm not saying it was easy, but boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, worth it.
it's interesting you say that because a lot of people have asked me, when I do the conventions, um, whether it be a Comic Con or a horror film, horror con or whatever it is, they always ask me about what guests made the biggest impressions. And I have to say the ones that want to be there even more than the fans do, you know. Uh, Felissa Rose from Sleepaway Camp turns it up to 11. I've met her twice, and she makes well worth it for everybody who meets her. I met Charo at Chiller,
She's
and
wonderful.
oh my goodness, I gave her my card. I'd love to get her on the show, but I'm going to tell you, she was worth. I wasn't even planning to meet her, and I decided, well, you know what? I'm going to go meet her. Glad I did. Boy, oh boy, I am. But on the webs or the Facebook page, they're asking, who did you enjoy meeting most, and this and that. Boy, oh boy, was Charles mentioned a lot, and I understand why.
She is so smart, smarter than anyone knows who doesn't know her personally. So talented, a brilliant, brilliant classical Spanish guitarist. All of that, coochie coochie business was great for talk shows and game shows, but this is a very talented woman.
Yep. And then there's other guests.
I hope I'm one of them.
No, I'm talking about ones that I met at the cons.
Oh, gotcha, gotcha, gotcha.
Yeah, because I haven't had Felissa Rose on here. She's doing an independent film like every other week. It's hard to nail her down. I've got to reach out to Charles. Another couple people I haven't had on here, but I enjoyed meeting them. And I'm going to mention them in the same sentence because their experience with them were both similar. One is John Rhys Davies, who was in Raiders of the Lost Ark, and the other was William Catt, who was in House and Carrie and Great American Hero. They were both very similar in how they treated the fans.
Oh,
John Rhys
William.
Davies, yeah, well, John Rhys Davies, I remember he would always ask everybody, what do you do for a living? If they were in college, he'd ask, what are you taking or blah, blah, blah. I remember when I got up to him, John Rhys Davies for the picture, put his arm around me and started going like this. He started to get me to react. And he was great. William Catt didn't do that on my side or anything, but one thing I was quite taken with. There was a student there, and I believe he was with his mom. And they were both at this, and he was just graduated high school. He was going to go to college. And I remember William Catt was just taking his time was saying, "Oh, what you taking college, And he was like just engaging with him. And I was like, wow, I love that because it tells you a lot about them,
Well, also William was taught by the best because he was born into the business because his mother was Barbara Hale, who was Della Street on Perry Mason, and his father was Bill Williams. So, and a very talented man in his own right. But he was shown how to treat fans.
Yep. And of course, Lisa Langlois brought me into this, and I've always thanked her because she didn't have to invite me. She didn't have to make me her friend. And I sent Lisa flowers on Valentine's Day because, like Lisa, you had a tremendous impact on the fact I wouldn't be traveling. I've never gotten on a plane had she not say, "Come and assist me at a horror film convention." And I'll always hold Lisa to high regard on that. But it's funny because I was on and I had to defend somebody the other day. They're going on the Chiller site and they were posting pictures. I met Sybil Shepherd, and and a lot of people were posting pictures where Sybil Shepherd wasn't smiling or anything. And they were saying stuff like, if you don't want to be there, don't go. And I had to defend her. I said, look, folks, this was Sybil's first autograph signing. She's just dipping her toe into it, getting a feel of it, you know? Give her a little slack. I had a good experience with Sybil Shepherd.
Good.
And I'll tell you, I remember I mentioned the Dom Wells with the pie in the face thing when I mentioned her, where I said that's one of the things I love that she's willing to do stuff like that. When I approached Sybil Shepherd, I shook her hand, and you could tell this was new to her. She was not distant, but a little reserved because this is all new. And I said to her, I said, Sybil, I saw you in Moonlighting, and there was a food fight scene, and Bruce Willis ducks, and you get hit in the face with a pie. And I said, how many times in your career have you done that? And she said once. And I said, wasn't there? And I didn't know the sitcom name, Sybil. She
Yes.
had one where she was holding herself up by the hair and she had pie in her hand. She just let her face drop. I brought that up to her, and whoever was taking pictures took a lot of shots, a lot of shots. And I got a picture of her sticking her finger up with a grin on her face. And she said to me, she said, you're right. And she engaged with me about that.
You know,
And
when we meet people, now I'll talk from the other side of it.
mhm,
Uh, Lucy fans, I'll pick a category.
mhm,
They, some of them want to show you how much more they know than you do. Some of them are jealous. Some of them are this or that. And then you have the people who, like, on page 317, you wrote, and I thought that was brilliant. That's the person I will spend more time with because they're actually there enjoying my work. They're not there to challenge me. They're not there to impress me. They're not there to get anything out of me. They're just there to enjoy that I'm there. And I'm sure the same thing was true for Sybil with you, that you had no agenda other than to be happy she was there.
yeah. And I got a great picture with her.
Good.
And actually, I had several pictures with her. I got one where, she's got the photo she autographed, nice picture. And I said, I had a good experience with her, but I love that there was multiple shots taken, but there was one shot where she has her finger up and she just got this grin on her face, like, you're right. I did do that more than once. And I thought
Good
that
for you.
now in contrast, and again, I didn't have a bad experience with this guy, but I met William Shatner on the second day. He was there for 4 hours. I didn't have a bad experience with William, but you can tell he's just there for the money. He looked like he had just got out of bed. You know, I got my brother an autograph and I got a picture with him because it would have been, he was one of the most expensive autographs I ever got at a con. But my brother watches Skittles while I was gone, so I wanted to get him something. And I thought William Shatner autograph and I could
Good
do
for
the
you.
picture. Yeah. But Shatner didn't come off as engaging. Now, I haven't had a bad experience with anybody at a con, so I'll take it for what it is, you know. But
Keep in mind that actors are human beings.
mhm,
We have bad days. He's not young. Even if he did it 10 years ago, he's not young. Bill is 90 now, or older, maybe 91, maybe. Well, people that age, it's hard, to do your show. Okay,
mhm,
it's 4:36 in the morning here. Now I'm trying to keep my energy up so that I'm good for you.
mhm.
But there'll come a point here in about 10 minutes where I'm going to say, you know what? Time for Geoffrey to go Betty bye. It's very hard at these kinds of shows. What he's talking about are autograph shows and cons where
Mhm.
someone sits behind a table and people line up and they hand you very nice money for your autograph and your pictures and to take a picture with you. Um, But do that for 6 hours. That's really enervating. That really drains you of energy. So the people who posted, you mentioned, well, if he doesn't want to be there, he shouldn't be there. Well, thank you, judgmental person. You're expecting every actor to be brilliant and charming and know just what to say and just what to do for total strangers they'd never met before. I think you're asking a lot of people who are very talented, but are, after all, just human beings.
Mhm.
We're trying to make a living. We want to be nice to you, but maybe his grandson had the flu, or his wig did
Actually, for me, it's
his
not
wig
even a
did
complaint.
his
Like,
wig didn't fit right. That I'm not talking about you. I'm
yeah,
talking about the people who judge.
yeah,
It's like, really? The same thing could be said about you. If you aren't there to be loving fans, why are you bothering?
yeah.
If you're going there so you can go home and write about how what a shithead everybody there was to you, well, first of all, if everybody was a shithead, maybe you are the shithead, number one. And number two, then you shouldn't have gone. Going with a chip on your shoulder to something like this is the wrong attitude. And who knows what kind of a jerk these people might have been,
Yeah.
because 90% of the fans, folks, we love you. We'd have no careers without you. But
Hmm.
10% of these people think that standing in line to see you and get a picture, you now must be their new best friend, and they must, get your phone number and get your address and invite you for dinner, or tell you how the last thing you did wasn't really that good, or how somebody else did something better. But it's like, you know what, folks? I don't want to hear that. Thank you, but bye. We're humans. It has to
Like
work
I
that
said,
way.
it's like I said on there. I said I had a great experience with Sybil Shepherd, and I hope she does another show, you know. But I had to tell people, I said, she's just dipping her toe into it. Let her get some experience, you know. Like I remember, like when I first went to one of these conventions. Of course, I was right into it, but I was like, oh my goodness, wow, I'm taking all this in, you know. But it is an interesting thing, and I've never had a bad experience. Nobody who was mean to me or anything like that, you know. And as far as William Shatner goes, he does so many of these, so I was glad to meet him. My brother got that autograph. He was happy to get it, and I was happy to get it for him.
And maybe he was nice to meet you, because I'm sure you were very nice to him.
You know what? I met him. I did a little fist bump with him, and I mean, well, usually I go shake hands, but he did the fist thing, and I was fine with that. Fist bump, and I thanked him for coming, and yeah, no, I had a good experience. But I tell you, Charo, she was off the charts.
Greg, let's start wrapping this up, because it is
That's
getting
right.
late here. Um, what Pick one or two more questions to ask me, and then I'm going to have to say goodnight to you and our lovely friends out there.
One or two more questions to ask you. Well, I think I'm out of questions. Okay, I'm
Okay.
going to try to think. I'm trying to try to think. Um, we've talked about a lot of people you've met and you've uh, coordinated with or had friendships with. Who have you met and worked with that we've never talked about?
Oh, golly.
Yeah, there's a
I've worked with
thoughtful one.
I've worked with Johnny Whitaker, Jody from Family Affair. We've been friends for almost 40 years.
Hmm.
Um, we've talked very little about Buddy Hackett. We've talked very little about Peter Marshall. We've talked very little about Tom Poston, or golly, Don Adams, or, I mean, almost pick a name of a comedian. I've known them and worked with them, and dined with them. Jack Carter is a fascinating comedian. We've never talked about him. So we have plenty more shows to do.
Yes, we do.
Um,
Wow.
I've been just so lucky, I think these people saw the talent, for which I'm grateful, saw that I knew what I was talking about, and saw that if they gave me their time, I would learn something from it and use it. When people kind of waste your time, like you're talking, you're trying to help, and you realize the last hour you spent talking to this person about their career, nothing you said got through to them at all. But when you talk to people who actually take it in and then they go out and they use it and they better their lives, yay, that's cool. So I think they saw that in me. Harlan says it's because I'm such a nice guy that they were happy to be in my company. Probably a combination of these things. But yeah, I continue to call myself the luckiest guy on the planet because of all these wonderful people, men and women, who who gets to sit at the feet of Mary Martin in her dressing room for 2 hours and have her give you advice about your career. So
We should at some point, we got to do some more tributes at some point, you know. We should do ones at some point on Buddy Hackett. That comes right to mind. But you've mentioned a lot of names. But
Buddy,
yeah,
a very strange man,
yeah.
brilliantly funny, but and we had a very strange friendship.
Okay. Well, I'll talk about who, or you could bring up somebody to do a tribute on because, I'm open to whatever, you know. But, I'm thinking about maybe give it maybe to next month. Have you come back on here and talk about a mad world.
I would love that.
Yeah, because
Let's do that.
we got to do the Friars Club at some point, you know. There's so much. Jeffrey, I thank you for being a night owl like me and coming on here and talking to me. I got to tell folks, it was 3 a.m. where he was when he come on to talk to me at 7 a.m. because I got off work at 6 a.m. my time. I am, of course, 1 hour ahead of Eastern Standard Time. So, and Jeffrey come on here with me, and he looks amazing with his purple sparkles. He's always a class act, and so full of knowledge. I love having you come on here, Jeffrey.
I love
And
being on with, believe me, there are not a whole lot of people. It's a quarter to 5 in the morning now that I'd be up this late working and looking like this just for you.
well, you know what? I appreciate it. I so appreciate it, and I value it a lot. And I'm glad that you're safe. You were safe from the fires. Yeah. I know I messaged you on Facebook about it, but I thought I had your number. I thought I'd call you because it's better to, have a verbal conversation and just to see how you're doing. I'm
Oh, I
glad that you'll,
appreciated it. I
yeah,
appreciate that you care.
yeah, absolutely. Well, you know what? I'm going to ask you to do a plug for my show before we close off. You take it.
Oh, golly. Um, what are you calling your show these days?
Python's Paradise.
Still, okay. This is Geoffrey Mark telling you that if you miss the next episode of Python's Paradise with my friend Greg Gilbert, you are duty head. Don't miss it.
Absolutely. And you know what? You may be tired, but Skittles is already back to sleep. And he did nothing.
A cat's life, man. A cat's life.
Jeffrey, thank you so much. It hasn't gone unnoticed that you've been wonderful to me, and I really appreciate it. And as Will Ferrell said in Anchorman, stay classy.
I'll do my best. You do the same.
Absolutely. God bless you, and you have a wonderful day.
God bless and have a happy.
Thank you very much.